Got some big Dem unity news to share with you this morning. So, of course, we've covered here how what Bernie Sanders got for his exit from the race was some task forces. We are now learning the membership and the co-chairs in particular of those task forces. Let's go ahead and throw up the Biden press release. All right, so you'll recognize some of these figures. And look, some of these are good folks. You've got AOC on there. On the other hand, you have John Kerry. You got Sarah Nelson, who's a friend of the show. You've got Karen Bass, Marcia Fudge. You have also, these are the co-chairs down the list. You've got Varshini Prakash from the Sunrise Movement. So, you know, a mix, obviously, of Bernie and Biden people. Let's also throw up here, though, like the way that this news has been presented, this New York Times tear sheet. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez among top Dems promoting Biden-Sanders unity, which is pretty much the headline that the Biden team really wanted to get out of this without having to actually give up anything to this point of substance.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have asked for anything more. I think AOC, quote, what did she say? Something about, well, you got to work for change on the inside as well as on the outside. I mean, essentially, what they got is AOC being the co-chair of the Climate Change Committee. And that's the one that, in particular, I don't really get. She was out there trashing him on climate change during the campaign. Because didn't he say something about how we need incremental change? And I think she literally gave a speech before Sunrise talking about how that it wasn't going to cut it. I mean, the Sunrise, it's pretty amazing. Like, they gave him an F according to their plan. And they're both of these constituencies are represented there. I think broader, I just don't understand the point. Because from my perspective, I mean, I look at this and I see, so Pramila Jayapal, she's on the co-chair of healthcare. I'm looking at I have the list right in front of me.
Supporter of
She's
Medicare
a supporter of Medicare for All in the House. Biden has explicitly said, I am not going to do Medicare for All. So what is the point of being on the task force? Is it just like expanding coverage within Biden care? I mean, okay. I mean, it seems like something it seems reasonable from your perspective and all of that. But you look down this, and this is just, I mean, it seems like tokenism. Because on the economy, I mean, they have Sarah Nelson. They even have Stephanie Kelton, who is a proponent of modern monetary theory. But at the end of the day, I mean, we know who Biden is listening to. We know where his instincts are. Do these task forces matter all that much when he has been explicit on the type of healthcare, economic coverage that he's going to have? I mean, the left, in my view, the biggest inroads that they're going to make with Biden are on immigration, on education, on criminal justice reform. These are all areas where I think he doesn't have very strongly held convictions. And even though he was on 1994 crime bill, he's kind of just like, oh, yeah, fine. But those things are actually electoral disasters if you don't pair them with economic populism. I mean, and that's the part that he's just willing to shoot in the face.
True.
Yeah.
I don't really believe he will move left significantly on anything because he's through the primary. And why would he do that at this point?
Right.
Maybe the best case scenario is that the task forces are just meaningless. The worst case scenario is that it's effectively a way to sort of co-opt and defang your strongest critics from within your own team.
Definitely.
And you can look back on this, with Bernie Sanders, what happened after 2016. They're like, oh, we hear you. So what we're going to do is make you part of Senate leadership.
Right.
Well, that was all part of very successful effort to essentially make him kind of like a company man, where he's friends, he's in the leadership, he's going to be unified with the ticket, he's not going to be out there freelancing. And that did defang him. That made him much less potent. It also, just from a sort of like public perception, made him seem much more like just like a standard issue Dem.
Party man, yeah.
Right? Which ultimately undermined his support with those white working class voters and rural voters who were very strong for him back in 2016. So there's a real chance here that sort of dynamic could happen with, people like AOC and Sarah Nelson, Stephanie Kelton, Varshini Prakash, et cetera. And look, I think that once you have said we're going to vote for Biden, this is the best that you can do, is to get in there and hope to push him a little bit on this thing or that thing. Like, that's the only real path open to you at this point. But I see people out there this morning trying to spin this as like a big victory for the groups that sent their earn our vote letter with their list of demands to Joe Biden. I mean, let's be real about what this is. It's tokenism at best.
Yeah.
At worst, it actually actively undermines the movement.
I think that actually is probably the most, that is really what it is. I mean, it's the old Washington thing. It's like you'd rather have somebody inside the tent pissing out than outside the tent pissing in. That's ultimately what they want.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer kind of a deal.
Ultimately, you want them inside here and being like, I mean, look, what do they really want? They want AOC and everybody else to perpetuate that, oh, well, Biden is this, but, the Republicans or whatever. I mean, if you look at her rhetoric, all she ever does is criticize the Republicans. Very rarely does she even a smidgen of criticism of the actual Democratic establishment, Nancy Pelosi or any of that. And that's something they can tolerate. They're like, oh, yeah, fine, right? I mean, as long as you're going after them, you're all good. And you can see this in the list, which is that it's like I said, look, these people basically, I mean, Pramila Jayapal and Bernie and all these other people went to war with their own party over Medicare for All, saying that if you don't support this policy, you're basically condemning people to death.
They really made it a central litmus test.
I mean, it was everything.
They did.
It was everything. And then you go and you serve as a co-chair on the campaign of the person who ran the explicit victory of punching you in the face and saying, no, I don't believe in what you have to say. And look, I mean, Biden did legitimately win the primary, but it's more about, I mean, how are you going to navigate and fight for it? And how are you going to square it with your past rhetoric? Which is that if you get let's say they get like 2 million more people qualified for a COBRA subsidy, but all the existing infrastructure that you have spent a lifetime vilifying still exists. How are you supposed to square that with your rhetoric? And then here's the other thing. How are you really supposed to have any credibility whenever you're coming at the Republican side?
Right.
Because the Republican side can be like, look at you. You sold out just like everybody else. You're just another standard issue politician.
The thing is, they've already made the utilitarian calculation of Biden is better than Trump. Ergo, I must support Biden no matter what. I mean, it is the vote blue no matter who. It's like, blue MAGA, Biden could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and he's still better than Trump, so we're still going to vote. Like, once you've made that utilitarian calculation of as long as Biden is slightly better than Trump, I'm going to be with Biden, then this is the path that you end up on. This is what you have to do, is hope to be able around the margins to, okay, maybe we'll cover a few more people on healthcare, maybe we'll bring costs down a little bit. The alternative approach is to stand with your principles, say like slightly better than Trump isn't good enough, and I'm not going to be with you unless you meet this standard. But that ship has already sailed. I mean, they've already said that that's not an option for them. So here we are. I saw a reply to Varshini Prakash, actually from Sunrise Movement, her tweet explaining her thinking and her reluctance. And I mean, it's a good thread. You should actually go and read it, about her reluctance to be involved and how, she's going to continue to speak out, and that they don't really, have a lot of faith that Biden is really going to implement what he even agrees to here. But there was a reply to it that was like, look, I trust your good intentions. I don't trust theirs. And that kind of sums it all up. Look, whatever other choice you have at this point when you've already said you're going to back him, I guess the best you can do is try to hope that you can influence things on the margin. But that utilitarian, if he's better than Trump, if he's better than whatever the GOP is offering, I'm going to be there. That means that you are never going to make the real progress and the real change and the real substantive change that the country so badly needs.
Yeah, and look, there is something to be said for marginality. I'm not against that. I think that that is a Washington project. It's about, you have to be able to balance that. I think that you only do that whenever you've totally lost. And I mean, let's be honest, you have not totally lost. He does still need some of you and your support and all of that.
Yeah.
So maybe fight for it. Because, okay, look, he wins the White House. That's a different story. You're in the White House for 4 years. You literally have no other option. But during the campaign is not the time to give away your leverage. Because if you give it away now, we're in the White House when it comes appointee season. This is what people always do.
That's the thing, they've already given it away, though.
Right, that's the thing. They're like,
it's
well,
over.
If I play ball now, I'll get my appointments then. I'll be sitting right here if Biden wins, and I'll be showing you exactly how that plays out. Whenever it comes to staffing the administration.
That is the fantasy. Is so often progressives and the left convince themselves that if they are nice, if they do whatever the thing that the establishment asks them to do, if they don't criticize them, if they do those things that are good little girls and boys, that's the way to get ahead. Never works.
It does.
Never. I mean, we'll see what happens with these task forces. We've already seen, Biden out there courting Republicans for Biden. He's a bridge to Pete Buttigieg. Larry Summers is for advice. Jamie Dimon for charges. We already know what this looks like, right? And in the House, Nancy Pelosi explicitly trashing the left, going to, outright war with them. You see it in ways all around the country, and yet the left always signs up to let me get kicked in the face again, please.
Yeah, somehow.
All right, more Rising for you after this.